Senate investigation of Bush era torture erupts into constitutional crisis. That's the headline that George Zarnik uses at thenation.com. And what's happening here on the ground is I don't know. Very few people outside the Beltway are going to take this seriously. And people inside the Beltway who should be taking it seriously are going to say, this is a surprise? And those of us out here who like you, like moi, who have been talking about, discussing, reading about, and warning about this for, I don't know, 20 years? Certainly 15. We are going to say, yeah, so it's not a constitutional crisis when the Constitution really doesn't exist anymore anyway. I mean, that all ended, the last remnants of constitutional law in this country has a very specific ending date, December 12th, 2000. And less than a year later, the Bush-Cheney war machine engineered, deliberately or passively, an attack on this country that moved us totally into a national security state and ended whatever little shards of constitutional law still existed. We have people in detention that we've had in detention for 13 years that we force feed in violation. That is against the Geneva Conventions. It's against every goddamn international law to which the U.S. is party. Force feeding prisoners who haven't even been charged with a crime. You're going to talk to me about this is a constitutional crisis? Oh, goddamn, grow up! There's no constitution here to have a crisis over. The backstory. The backstory is crucial, as George Zarnik puts it. In 2002, the Bush administration authorized the CIA to begin detaining terror suspects and subjecting them to enhanced interrogation techniques, torture. These are the sessions, the torture sessions in Cuba that Dick Cheney insisted be videotaped. And the videotapes, of course, poof, fairy dust. They're gone. And I think Cheney, I don't think, I know why he did it. That was indictable evidence that he's a goddamn war criminal of the worst kind. And for years, during the Bush crime family's reign, members of the Senate Intelligence Committee were unaware of this program, so they say, with the exception of the chairperson and the vice chair, a Democrat and a Republican, or a Republican and a Democrat. They knew. The full committee was informed of the program by then CIA Director Michael Hayden in September 2006, only hours before Bush announced the existence of the program to the public. And about a year later, if you remember, the New York Times reported that the CIA was destroying those videotapes. Destroying them. Why? If you're going to videotape your torture techniques, there must be a reason for doing that. What's the reason for destroying them? By then, Democrats had taken control of the Senate and demanded answers. Yeah, of course they did. And Michael Hayden, the CIA director at the time, Michael Hayden explained to the committee that the videotapes had to be destroyed, but that the CIA possessed paper records and operational cables that were, quote, a more than adequate representation, his words, of what was on the videotapes. And he allowed There's all you need to know. The director of the CIA allowed members of the Senate Intelligence Committee to look at these written records. He allowed them to. Like your fifth grade teacher, homeroom teacher, allowed you to get up and go pee. He allowed them to. What they found, as Feinstein reported at the time, from reading these synopses, these written records, what they found, Feinstein at the time called chilling. Or what they found at the time, Feinstein this morning called chilling. She said the interrogations were, quote, far different and far more harsh. And you, as the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Feinstein, you are just now coming to that conclusion. Weren't you and Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama the three people who said, we're looking forward, impeachment is off the table, holding anybody responsible for war crimes is not going to happen? And now your ass is in an uproar about this? You have to be kidding. This is a result, Senator, and the rest of you corrupt individuals who run this government. This is a result of your, not just your inattention to what was going on, but your total disconnect from what you were supposed to be doing. You're the goddamn Senate! And you didn't know. Isn't that what members of the German High Command said? Oh, really? Death camps? No. Who'd have thunk it? I thought we were putting the Jews on the trains to send them to Siberia. We have a city out there. Once we defeat the Russians, we have a city out there. That's what they were going to death camps. We had a torture program in the United States. Why, that's against the law. As she said this morning, when she first became aware of all of this, Feinstein, she wanted the CIA to turn over all relevant documents to the committee in their usual offices, as had been done in the past. Just bring us all your stuff. This was back in 2009. We want to see everything, Feinstein said. You know what? Leon Panetta, who had just been appointed by Barack Obama as head of the CIA, you know what he said? He said he wanted the review of these documents to take place at the CIA. And why not? For the Senate to continue the charade that they run the CIA rather than the CIA runs the Senate is ludicrous. So Panetta he stopped calling a spade a shovel and called it a spade. He said, okay, Diane, the boys, all of you right-wingers, you left-wingers, I don't give a goddamn what you are. Tea partiers, tea junkies, I don't care. Y'all want to see this and you have the appropriate clearance? Come on out to my house. Come on out to the CIA. That's where you can look at it. That's where you can look at it. You'd think that invitation by Panetta, as George Zornick points out, would have been at least seemed to undermine an independent congressional review, right? Oh, my God. Anyway, as Feinstein said in her eruption today, an agreement was reached with agency officials, CIA officials, in which the Senate review would take place on secure computers, but at the CIA facility. Ugh. Yeah. Now, as George Zornick points out, it is kind of important to understand that this computer system that they're talking about actually belonged to the Congress of the United States. Where does the money come from, right? And the Congress was conducting crucial oversight of the executive branch as prescribed by the U.S. Constitution. And it was this computer system that Feinstein alleges was infiltrated by the CIA. Infiltrated? Infiltrated? I mean, that's such a quaint word. That sounds, I don't know, it just sounds so Cold War-ish. I don't know, so 60s and 70s, doesn't it? Infiltrated. Senator Feinstein, you have not farted since you came to the Senate that the CIA didn't know about it. Infiltrated? So Feinstein demanded to see everything that was put together about our torture program back in 2009. And according to the backstory, and George Zornick at thenation.com makes it very clear that the backstory to this horror is real necessary. But what happened then, the CIA began transferring hundreds of thousands and then millions of documents related to the torture program. Millions of documents related to the torture program to the Senate computers. But it didn't take long for problems to arise. In 2010, Senate investigators realized, here it comes, that the CIA had removed 900 files it had initially transferred. It said all this stuff and then used their back door to go back in and take it back. The CIA did. Something Feinstein revealed for the first time this morning during her speech on the Senate floor. Now, at first, the CIA claimed no files have been removed. What are they going to say? Yeah, we stole. We have ways to getting into the Senate computers, and we did that because we realized that some stupid son of a bitch over here at Langley, in transferring all those files to you, transferred stuff that clearly shows the existence of war crimes by the highest levels of the Bush administration. So at first the CIA said no files have been removed, and then they blamed it on the private contractors who were helping the agency vet the documents. Oh yeah, go to a private contractor. That's right. Here is evidence of U.S. torture programs, violations of international law, violations of Nuremberg decisions, the Geneva Conventions, UN, blah, 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 and they're going to send it out to a private contractor. Of course they are. Of course they are. So that's whose fault it was, according to the CIA. Oh, well, it was those damn private contractors again. You know, they're always effing up, aren't they? Ultimately, the CIA blamed it on an order from the White House. That would be from the President of the United States. It doesn't come from one of those columns. It doesn't come from a chair in the hallway. It doesn't come from a statue or painting. It has to come from one person and one person only, the President. Who was the President in 2009? In 2010? Who was the President? Come on. The Obama administration denied giving any such order. And the Obama administration, I don't know who handled this. Maybe it was Mr. President himself. But a peace deal between the Israelis and a peace deal between Feinstein and the CIA was brokered, and that included a CIA apology. Oh, well, everything's okay then. I mean, they apologized. What do you want? I mean, what do you want? You want to fine us? We apologize. Sorry, we had to steal the 900 files. But we're sorry. Okay? Everything okay? Senator Fine, everything okay? Everything okay? Mr. President, everything okay? Everybody all right? Huh? Okay, good. Let's go about business as usual. But soon a far more severe breach arose. What could that be? Well, at that point in this article by George Zornick, he goes on, and I just don't have the time to do this whole thing, but I'm suggesting you go to thenation.com and read this damn thing. The Senate investigation of Bush-era torture erupts into constitutional crisis by George Zornick. Just read it. I mean, it reads like I don't know. It reads like a Coen Brothers film, or I don't know. It's just insane. Insane. So skipping ahead, you can do that. That's your homework. Read that on your own. Skipping ahead in Zornick's piece, he says, if what Feinstein alleges is true, it essentially amounts to a constitutional crisis. And she said as much during her speech this morning, describing, in her words, a defining moment for the oversight of our intelligence community, end quote. It's much bigger than that, Diane, and you know it is. You know what's going on, Senator Feinstein. You know exactly. And so does Mr. Obama. And so does Leon Panetta, wherever he is. And so does everybody. Everybody knows inside Washington. You all know what's going on. It's us out here who don't have a goddamn clue, 99% of us. We have no idea that our form of constitutional government is gone. It's gone. The shell is still there. It's a burned out, gutted house. There's nothing left. Who are we kidding here? Why do we, you and I, why do we persist in telling ourselves that we live in a constitutional democracy, a democratic republic? I don't care what you call it. Why do we persist and continue to tell ourselves that we live in a nation of laws, not men? That is bull, and you know it is. You know it is. But we're going to keep playing the game, aren't we? There's just a little bit more here that I want to share with you when we come back after this break. But, you know, isn't it time to cut the crap? I mean, at what point is it time to cut the crap? At what point do the millions and millions and millions of Americans who played this goddamn game every election cycle stop the game and decide that it's time for rational, legal, just government? When does that happen?